am also the curator of Lucy Sparrow, The Beginning of Convenience. So this is the show that is paired with Chuck Ramirez and eventually another show throughout the duration of its time up. And this is, it's interesting because on its face, it's a very different show. We're working with a living artist. The material is very different. There's the two-dimensional photography, but the very tactile and very dimensional felt objects and felt creations. But as we look a little deeper, there are actually a lot of really wonderful connections and overlap between the two, which we definitely plan for, which we far in advance, right? For Lucy Sparrow and Chuck Ramirez, they are actually both supermarket workers in real life. So you see Lucy here, and this is something we'll talk about. Performance is also a part of her practice. But she was actually working in supermarkets to support her art making throughout her young adult life. So she has experience actually stocking real life shelves, and then that experience translates to stocking felt shelves full of similar products. This particular show, The Beginning of Convenience at the Momentary, is a rare and exciting opportunity for us, as well as Alejo mentioned, that this is the first major show for that first major show for Chuck Ramirez outside of Texas. This is a major show for Lucy Sparrow because this is her first U.S. museum exhibition. She has done hundreds of retail pop-ups and limited shows across the world, really. So in London, in Los Angeles, in Miami. These shows that she's done before have been limited term, and they are often experiences that you can buy out of. So it is like a pop-up shop. For some of her earliest examples, there have been shops that have popped up where people can buy, and the intention was to have them open for a month, and Lucy unfortunately had to shut them down after only a week because everybody bought out the supply and there was not a store to be had anymore. So this is a much different experience of her work and her practice because this is going to be up for a year. And while we will have a retail component, because of course this is a major component of what Lucy does and thinks about, the core of the show will remain the same. So the experience of being inside the supermarket and the other kind of felt components that we'll talk about in a minute will remain, and you can only do your purchasing in the store. But there will be some similar looking products within. So if you just can't get over of how cute that tomato is inside, you're in luck because you can take one home with you. You will just have to buy it in the appropriate place, please. So I know some people, we've been talking about this show for a while, some people might be really familiar with this kind of expression of her work, these felt produce items and these are canned fish and canned meat. You might have heard about the show and thought it's just the supermarket, it's just that immersive supermarket experience, which is so integral to the type of work that she does. And that is definitely a major component of the experience, but at the same time, it's also a show about Lucy Sparrow and about her career. As I mentioned, this is a huge opportunity for us to really introduce her in earnest and use our platform to share her experience and her work with American audiences on this big platform. Because it's up for a year, people will get to really experience her work in a new way and also get to know her on a deeper level than just the experience of talking to her as playing cashier in the run of shorter term shows. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Lucy because she and who she is and her personality and the way that she approaches her work has really transformed the show. We've been working with her on this project for about 3 years now, working through the concept and what makes sense and what she wants to prioritize and what would make sense for us as an audience. She is a British artist. She was born in 1986 in Bath, England. She always knew that she wanted to be an artist. when she was in this kind of drive that I'm about to talk about really just characterizes everything that Lucy approaches. So when she was a kid, she would oftentimes have trouble finding the toys that she wanted. And she'd come to her mother and it's like, I don't like, can I write letters to the toy companies to be like, I got some great ideas, you need to take note. And she did. Unfortunately didn't get a letter back, bummer. But from that, her mother encouraged her, well, if you can't find them and they're not replying to you, why don't you make your own? And so she first, as a child, starts that experience to make her own toys out of the material that was most available to her, felt. It's cheap, it's widely accessible in a number of colors, and she could get her hands on it. So she really gets into this mode of taking charge and taking the bull by its horns, even at the youngest age. She tries to go the traditional art school route, goes to school for it. She's a little bit disillusioned by this process because people are not, she's noticing that in college, art school college, that people are not dedicated to art in the same way that she feels, that this is not really providing her the opportunity to work with peers and produce work on a level that felt right to her. So she drops out of art school, and what her approach then is to begin to take on little odd jobs left and right, including the supermarket job, to fund her art making practice. So whenever she would work these tireless hours just to support art making, to get money for materials in order to create her products. One of the most illustrative examples of Lucy and her mission and her drive relates to the experience of her first kind of debut in the art world. So she's been, as I mentioned, making art since she's a child, but she has this opportunity, she has this idea rather in 2015, and she wants to make it a reality. She's thinking about wanting to recreate a British corner shop, kind of like a bodega, at this one little area in Suffolk, and she is so dedicated. She has this idea to create this entire immersive environment and this iconic fixture of British culture and society. And as I mentioned, artist, no backing support, doesn't have her family's not particularly rich or has money to support her. She's having difficulty with British institutions taking her artwork seriously. They think it's flippant. They think it's not it's on the level that they think it should be. The seriousness, the young British artists. This is like a group of Damien Hirst and Tracy Emin, and that artwork is very cerebral and very serious. And so when they are comparing her work, they're like, this is just not worth our time. So she's having difficulty making headways into traditional art paths, but she really has this vision and she wants to see it through. She wants to bring this idea of immersive felt world into reality, into something that is so near and dear to her own heart. And so she goes and she starts a Kickstarter campaign. She is able to produce her own video, and it picks up speed, and she is able to fully fund her Kickstarter right at the same time that she gets Arts Council funding on her third attempt. And she is able to open Corner Shop in 2014, excuse me. And in that time, this is her moment where she takes the art world by storm. She gets so much press from this. People are sharing with their friends. People are starting to line up down the block. People are really so interested in it because it is such a different experience. As I mentioned, British institutions, a very different way of art making and a way to experience art. It's not in a gallery. It's not in a museum. It is in this kind of broken down shop because this is what she could afford, but it is very much integrated into a British street, just a regular British street, and she builds up this entire illusion of a supermarket. She makes over 4,000 items by hand herself. She doesn't have any other contracted help at this point. Her family comes in to help her run the register. But this is really the moment that her entry and ascent in the art world and recognition begins to take off. And so that kind of dedication and drive continues to characterize her practice and the way that she works. I'm sure, as I mentioned, you're familiar with these very, very cute fruits and vegetables and products. But what is underneath that is, just to give you some more examples, is that, get ready, because there's a lot of products here. So before I talk a little bit about this, I want to acknowledge that my presentation is going to look a little different from Alejo's in that he showed you work that was already complete. That this is work that Chuck created. For Lucy, I'm showing you some examples of previous shows and what she has made before, because for this exhibition, she is creating over 22,000 felt objects to create the supermarket. And this does not account for the kind of flat works, the advertisements. You can see that fish and chips sign back there. There's going to be some signs like that in the supermarket to really build up that illusion. She does this all, has come a far way from the days of just working with her parents. She now works with a team of 5 other creators, crafters, laborers called Team Felt. This is, so that's 6 total, plus an emotional support banana, which we'll talk more about soon, and 4 studio cats. And that is the group that is making over thousands upon thousands of objects to stock up the shelf in service of creating this immersive reality and experience of this textile, technicolor world that you can really enter. And it's something that's familiar, as I'm sure everybody in here has been to a supermarket, but it's also very new. I'm sure you've been to a supermarket, but probably not where the tomatoes have faces on it. And if you have, I would like to know where that is. Here you can really get a sense of the way that Lucy approaches her work as well. Making 22,000 felt objects and even just one felt object is a difficult task. The steps that she has to take, the actual physical making, she has to cut out the felt, she has to sew it together, she has to stuff it, she has to paint in those, if you're familiar with tulip paint, where it has kind of a needle that you can pipe out. She has to do every layer of detail. Each layer of paint dries in 2 hours, so she has to continually come back to layer on additional details. And that's not even accounting for what is another major hallmark of her practice, is the research and development side of things. Every item that she takes on is informed by this intricate and extensive research practice. For this particular show, we'll talk more about the specific influences, but one I want to, just to give you an example, we worked very closely with the Walmart Museum and Archives on this, and so we worked with the head there to get archival images of stores during a particular era that she's thinking about, product lists, things that were readily available at the time that would be true to our experience in the region even. And so this kind of obsessive drive to not only continue to create on such a massive scale, but also to pay so close attention to the details and the importance of really capturing that accuracy to create this experience that is very familiar and accessible to everyone, but allows you to experience your everyday surroundings and things you're familiar with in a new way, is so much of what she does. And so when I was talking about the connections to, let me get this next image. was talking about the connections with Chuck Ramirez. One of the other major themes that emerges from this show is the importance of finding beauty and connections with seemingly everyday products, the ordinary wonders, right? She is recreating in exquisite detail, intricate detail, hundreds of products, producing them over thousands and thousands of times. And what Lucy is thinking about here is she wants to, us as consumers, and thinking about the ways that our products, the products that we love and what they can bring up for us. How, when we're having a bad day, a candy bar can really make all the difference to make us feel better, to remind us of a memory, to remind us of a great time that we had with friends and family. She wants that experience, you know, in this supermarket area. She wants it to be familiar so that you have a connection to what's going on, but this kind of unsettling, you know, eerie, not eerie is not the right word, but it disarms you and provides you a space to play and to have fun and think about your relationship to these products in a new way, because you're not seeing them as actual, you know, plastic bottles of detergent or packets of gum. You're seeing them reproduced and felt in this new material. And so you are reoriented to them in a new way. But on the surface, beyond those great connections, there is obviously what it is, which is also, it's fun, it's colorful, it is nostalgic, it is comforting. You know, the actual physical touch of the felt, which you're not supposed to touch, but just the idea of touching and that softness is very much a part of Lucy's practice. She wants this to be inviting. She wants it to be engaging. She wants everybody to be able to access not only the experience itself, but also thematically and thinking about their own connections to products. So I have a general layout. I'm sorry that this is not as big as I thought it was, but what you see over, perhaps not. What you see on the left is where Chuck Ramirez will be, and then this area is, the large area down here is Gallery 2, and this in between is the tower area, and what you see over to the right is Gallery 3, or the area outside of Fermentation Hall. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each area and give you, as I mentioned, you'll have to see the experience in its entirety, but I'll give you some background and thinking behind these different areas, and also just some of the things that she is currently working on, a sneak peek. So I'm sure a lot of you by this point are wondering what is the connection with the title? What does that mean? What is the connection to the supermarket, to the entire narrative of the show? So the beginning of convenience is thinking about this specific time in history where in the 1980s, 1990s, we continue to see the rise of dual working families. We see in the 1980s, there's an economic boom, so we see that there are, lives get busier, people are on the move, there are so many things happening, the 24-hour news cycle, the development of new products, and so there's really, you know, people more actively at work. And so there is the development and launch nationwide of the supermarkets, and none other than for this particular show we're looking at the history of Walmart, because we have this incredible positioning in Bentonville, this hallmark of retail history. With the supermarket, shopping becomes a one-stop location, so you can get everything that you need in one area. So this is a period in which there's an interest in like how to do things fast and how to do things quick. So we see more microwave meals, things that are to cook up in frozen foods more easily, TV dinners. We also see in certain, we'll we'll have a picture of this later, but the things like snack bars, right? The 1 hour photo development. So things that are more immediate, things that you can take and you don't have to wait for them. You don't have to spend hours at home cooking because you're able to pick up something that is fast and more immediate. During this period, there's also these different companies have to battle for consumer attention. So we see some really interesting products develop, not only from a taste and experience perspective, but also just the incredible colors and the vibrancy and the graphic design, which is something that Lucy thinks a lot about. She's obviously thinking about what makes sense from a organizational perspective, but also what looks really good and what is going to capture your attention, and what are some of the other like kind of weird products that we from this era that we think about, but maybe are not the best tasting. Things like Crystal Pepsi, for one. Also, she's going to think too about some of the new technology of the era. So, in addition to the kind of rollouts of ATMs, which we'll talk more about, 1 hour photo. We have VHS section, so all your favorite 1980s, 1990s films, be sure to check in because she will have a section dedicated to that as well. I had to send this out so you could actually watch the commercial, but another part of Lucy's practice and her artwork is performance. So not only in creating this immersive environment, she really wants to think about every aspect of what one experiences as you enter a grocery store. So she, in many of her installations, works the front counter. So she will, wear her own little apron and hat like a store employee and check you out and talk to you and make sure that you are have all the products that you want. She is really building up that illusion, and that experience is really important. So it's not just what's on the shelves, it's also in the carpeting of the show, but the floor tiles. So the kind of checkered floor tiles that you would see, the different neon signs that you might see, kind of directing you to different products, even the audio experience of hearing, clean up on aisle 5, or hearing the beep of the checkout counter. All of those aspects are very important to her, so that you really are entering this new world, that you can have fun and you can experience this everyday experience all anew. In the left corner, I'm giving you just a couple of sneak peeks of things that she is currently working on. So we're all familiar with Pop-Tarts. These are a very specific type of how the brand looked during that time, and also some very interesting flavors, which I don't think are available anymore. Dutch apple. And then this is not finished yet, but you might have a sense of what this is from the coloring. It is a Tyson chicken that will be available there. Yeah, the label will come, but. Okay, so for the other two areas, quick overview. The tower is, which is an area that kind of is where the title wall will be and welcomes you in. There will be kind of an extension of the supermarket as well as a documentary area. And then in Gallery 3, there's going to be some replicas of the artist studio and the spaces in which she works. So we'll jump into that. So for that tower area, it's not enough that we enter the supermarket, right? She wants to have that experience of even approaching the store. So you'll see things like, as I mentioned, the ATM outside. You'll see kind of a community notice board where you can like pick off signs that like, oh, if you need a babysitter, call this number. Also some things like shopping carts that she will felt, and vending machines that she will felt, and kiddie rides that she will felt. And it just really sets up the feeling of even approaching this store. One of the other things you saw, I'll send it out so you can watch it. I don't, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but commercials. That is also a component of her kind of the merging of the supermarket experience and her performance. So you'll see her starring in own commercials for products. So probably you'll see one for some PPG products, since they're a wonderful sponsor. So you'll see her referencing, again, archival material that is actually from the era to capture in her own unique, kind of quirky, fun style and way of approaching artwork. Also in the tower area, in the middle here, is kind of a reference to that. So under the oculus, if people might remember where the Best in Show kind of video of the dogs walking is, we're going to be setting up a documentary area, so a place for people to sit and to watch this content. It's about 30 minutes. This is a documentary that Lucy and her team have produced over the past couple years that really details her process to get here and what that has looked like, not only in working on the beginning of convenience, but looking at her career from the very, very beginning, from those Kickstarter campaign, from all the different pop-up shops, and what it took to get to this moment. So who you see here is Mike DiPaolo. He is a major supporter of Lucy and Collector. You'll also see some other familiar faces, including my own and Jill's. And so this is a great kind of introduction and hint at what you'll see in Gallery 3. So I'll talk about that in just a minute, but what you see here is, of course, people are gonna wanna touch. They can't touch inside the store, but what they can do is pick up a designated produce pal or produce petting zoo to take with them into the supermarket, so they have something that they can touch and feel, and so they're not interested in grabbing every other thing. They might be interested, but they can't do it. Everything else in the supermarket. And so one thing, I'll talk quickly about Gallery 3. So it's divided into two parts, as you might have seen, and the thinking here is, as people exit the supermarket, and just the sheer awe and the magnitude of what you're seeing in the undertaking that it took to create something on such a large scale, capturing era-specific colors and the layout of the store and what's available in a Walmart during this period of time in Bentonville, Arkansas, and really capturing it with such an exquisite detail. People are gonna have the question, which I certainly did when I first approached Lucy's work, is who can do this and how can they do this? How is this possible? Like, this must be mass produced, this must be something that she puts into a fabricator, this must be, there must be some kind of trick here that I'm not seeing. And so that's a common experience, and we want to address that for people. We want to really take back that curtain and show people who Lucy Sparrow is and what defines her work. So we have this kind of teaser in the documentary, and then we really want to open it up to kind of other theatrical presentations of the way she lives and works. So what you see at the top, which will be in one side of the Gallery 3, is a recreation of her banana room. And you're probably asking, what is a banana room? So this figure, this kind of fuzzy-nosed banana, has become a symbol, a representative of what Lucy's practice is all about and about who Lucy is. So a quick story. When Lucy was 9 years old, she received a Christmas present from her father, which is one of the kind of medium-sized, the small banana that you see there. And she was so taken with this. So actually, let me clarify. The lineage of bananas is very important, please forgive me. So the small banana that you see was originally a gift from her sister who won it in a claw game. Later that year, she received the medium-sized banana, a medium-sized banana that she is holding from her father as a Christmas present. And so this is really, she was so enamored with this banana, and it was right. It was just immediate companionship. It just felt like this is what she needed. It's so soft, it's so comfortable. You'll get to see some of these. You're able to like kind of cuddle them like a baby. And it becomes such a indicative of like her practice because it's colorful, it's soft, it's comforting. She has this really deep emotional connection attached to them. And so you might be wondering like, oh, that's great, but why are there so many of them? And that's because as she became older, she had been taking the OB, original banana, everywhere, and he was beginning to have a little wear on him. And she's like, this can't stand, I cannot lose this banana. So she scoured the internet for years trying to find additional versions of this banana. And she was coming up empty-handed. She could not find other versions of this banana that she could purchase. But that was not going to stop her. Nothing has ever stopped her before. And this journey leads her to eventually find the patent holder of the company that designed this particular banana. And she buys it. So now she can produce any banana, anytime, of the 3 sizes. And she's done just that. So in her own studio, she has created, as you can see her in here, a banana room that completely kind of envelops her in this like nest of comfort and nostalgia and color. And she really is so, this is so important to her because it has such a positive, serves as such a positive memory for her, and is so, so good for her well-being and her mental health that she's able to enjoy being in this space with this beautiful connection to her family and to her own practice. And so we wanted, of course, and being such a hallmark of her practice, we wanted people to be able to see all the bananas, because if you've seen her, and when you see her, I should say, she does, as I mentioned, lineage of bananas. There's OB, original banana. And then there is Basil, who was with her for about 8 years. And then over the last several years, she has been bringing around Sebastian. So she does carry Sebastian everywhere. He does have little outfits. And when you see her for the opening, you will see that she has Sebastian with her. And so it really is like a friend. It's someone that she brings everywhere with her. And it is so comforting for her to have that piece of her life with her. And you might see Sebastian is also peeking over this next image here. And what we have on the other side of Gallery 3 is a recreation of her studio. It's kind of like a theatrical set dressing that really captures the way her studio is laid out. And you might have a little bit of a sense of it from here, but you can see a lot of colors, right? The colors, all the little fun details at the top. You can see the giant dentures. You can see the other bananas. You can see other little figurines. Lucy lives as she works, right? She lives in this field of color and play and fun. And what you don't see, some of the details that will be represented here, cat trees. There is different racks of all these different colors, and they're taken from cafeterias. And there's also an HR department of bananas that are wearing eyeglasses. And so it is fun, and it's so her, and it feels like Lucy. But what it also reveals is not just the fun and intrigue and that she brings to everything. It also shows that she is a mastermind of organization. It's not just that she is going through this to, purely to have fun. For somebody to go through the process of creating 22,000 individual felt objects, They have to know what they're doing, and they have to do it well. So she has this, and every time that I've worked with her, every spreadsheet she provides is intricately organized. It's every person's name here, what they've done on this date, what still needs to be done when it was sent, where it is in the process. All these different layers of production in order to realize her goal. This crystal clear focus is so important for Lucy to do her work, and we wanted the opportunity to express that, and what better opportunity than in the context of showing a recreation of her studio space, so you can see for yourself how she lives and how she sets up and accomplishes what she does. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about strategic positioning and why does it make sense that we took this show, and why does Lucy have, is this just a cute, fun show, or does this have, resonance with other items and themes in our collection? And the answer is absolutely yes. So you might have seen some of the soup cans that might have called up some thoughts for you around pop art, and that she is definitely in that lineage and that history of artists, about the idea of reproducing images, taking advertisements, appropriating advertisements, and recreating them in a new way in her own manner is definitely something she's interested in. She is definitely an heir to Clay's Oldenburg, not only thinking about, you can see here our soft alphabet, which is coming on view soon, the actual felt material, but also in the way of his store from 1961, where he is creating these plaster renditions of food objects that people can go in and buy. That's very directly related to some of the thinking behind what Lucy is doing. But I want to say that first, that generation, the Warhols, the Oldenburgs, they approach this exploration of advertisements and products with the kind of cold cynicism and something that is a little bit more removed. But for Lucy, this artwork and the connections that products can inspire in us is paramount. That emotional connection, the happiness, the joy that thinking about these products, our time spent with these different products and our experiences with other people with these products is so important to the work that she does. The finding that happiness in the details of the everyday that you didn't stop to think about before is integral to what she's creating when she's building these felt worlds. And so I also added an image of Keith Haring here because I think it's really important that I underscore how much access matters to Lucy. It's about that there's not a barrier for entry, that these are products that we're familiar with. Everybody has gone inside a supermarket. The way that they experience these products are different, and they have different stories to be told, but the experience of getting to see these products in a new way, look at the details and the exquisitely, intricately, painstakingly created details on there really show us those stories in new ways. And so I want to quickly just jump back for a minute to mention the beginning of convenience title, which is that it refers to this time period of convenient products and this kind of shift in the ways that people approach process of consumption. But it's also this very fun nod to her and her history, right? Nothing has been convenient for her to get to this process. Nothing is convenient about creating thousands upon thousands of different products. So there is this, it is kind of a fun play, but it's just from the very beginning, the beginning of convenience, to provide all these products to a person to enjoy. There's some fun kind of, it allows space for kind of thinking through that relationship between the products that we consume and what she is doing and her overall story to get here. But going back really quickly to Keith Haring, everything, art is for everyone, right? For Lucy, it's the same call. It is so important for her to provide that opening, to provide the space for people to enjoy themselves with art and to be able to experience it. I also really wanted quickly to point out the relationship to craft. It's one of the ways of making that we call out in the ways that we define craft about textiles. And so I wanted to include some images of some of the more freaky, fun works in our collection that speak to the kind of quirky nature of what Lucy's doing. Beatrice Wood's cat, and also some of the Flo Perkins of recreating these materials from real life in unexpected and unusual ways that make you take a closer look at the details. And so there is that narrative as well. Although Lucy doesn't really think quite in those ways, it is an important kind of strain of thought that is important for us as Crystal Bridges when we are presenting Lucy's work. Where's the cat? Great question. The cat is in the Cabinet of Curiosities in Foundations of American Art. Yeah. Yeah. Quick sidebar. It's strange that it is like the size of an actual cat, which is a little unsettling. I thought it was smaller. Lastly, just kind of summing up those points. The first U.S. Museum Show for the Artists, a major opportunity for us and for her. It's very fun, immersive, accessible exhibition that anybody can enter and enjoy in their own ways, in their own relationships with products. And also connections to wellness, the idea of taking the slow looking, the ability to take the time to consider your surroundings in new ways and the products you approach every day in new ways. And also, it's for a wide range of ages, though, right? So people who actually live through these products and who have tried them, and also for their relatives and children who might not know them, but are kind of like taken aback, and you can introduce them and kind of think about other similar products that they're more familiar with that can open up new avenues of dialogue. So I just want to express how wonderful it's been to work with Lucy. She is such a hard worker, such an incredible and talented person. Every time I get on a Zoom with her, she is always at work, she's always painting, she's always sewing. This drive, this kind of obsessive need to create and to share with the world is just so impressive, and I am so thankful and so excited that we get to share her and her work with our audiences. So that is all from me, and I would love to take any questions. Yes?